Children will experience a temporary delay in speech and language development. Most will eventually catch up. Others will continue to have difficulty with communication development. Communication disorders include speech disorders and language disorders. To tell us more, we have a speech therapist, Yumna, who's going to be giving us some more insight and advice on how to help your child with a speech impediment. Assalamu alaikum, Yumna, and shukran for joining me.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, all good in yourself?
Oh, well, Jazakallah.
All right, so first of all, how do you recognize speech and language disorders in your child?
So, uh, generally, you would notice it as a mother from maybe if you notice that your child's not responding to you initially from very early stages, they're not responding to you when you talk to them. Those are the early signs. And then as they reach about 6 months or so, if they're not babbling or making any sound at all, that's the first sign that they may be having a delay. Then as they reach about a year old, if they're not starting to say words, not particularly like full words, but maybe uh, short words or trying to copy you, if they're not starting to do that for about a year, that's when you'd maybe pick up they may be experiencing a language or speech delay.
Mm-hmm. What causes a speech impediment in a child?
So there's many factors that can cause it. Sometimes it can be something from birth that's in the child's brain, like a cognitive problem, or maybe something that may have happened to them shortly after birth, shortly in their early childhood, and knock on the head, or trauma to them, or sometimes just not getting enough stimulation. If they are just sitting and nobody's speaking to them, they won't be able to imitate or pick up language from anyone around them. So that's generally why we see delays.
Mm-hmm.
The delays are also sometimes due to other underlying factors. Some children may experience maybe having autism or underlying other disorders that cause them to have speech delays or disorders.
Mm-hmm. And what are the most common types of speech or language disorders?
So, firstly, we must always differentiate between speech and language
Mm-hmm.
because language is not always done through speech. So, speech
Yes.
is one way that children or people communicate, but language is a whole different issue. So, sometimes we focus on language first because language is more important. So, if the child is communicating through ways where they are showing their understanding language, they're communicating via gestures or body language or eye contact, at least we know that there's no problem with their language. It may just be a speech delay, which is easier to kind of address. Whereas if it's a language thing where they're not showing any understanding or any communication, that's when you would want to do a bit of further investigation to see why there is a problem. Because often speech is just not developed, children develop at different rates. So sometimes they may not actually start saying words till about maybe a year or just after a year. But as long as they are showing that they're understanding, then we know their language is fine. So
Mm-hmm.
that's firstly, that's why what we should focus on. Then
Mm-hmm.
the most common ones are generally just the lack of stimulation. Often, what we do, what we see is that we don't talk to our children enough. So they're not getting enough model of language to be able to understand or to able to start picking up words. So the most important thing is just to basically talk to your child from birth, from when you think they don't understand. The best way to make sure that they are going to not have a speech delay or disorder is just to start speaking to them all the time.
Mm-hmm. All right. And when we talk about speech impairments in children, what are we talking about?
So speech impairments could be where there's like a structural problem, maybe
Mm-hmm.
in the mouth. something wrong with the tongue or teeth or things that are causing speech impairment so that the pronunciation of sounds are not very good. That is generally something that either corrects itself via orthodontics or by itself as the child's structures develop, they kind of grow out of it. But other speech problems, if there's a lot of speech errors that are in a child's language that are making them almost not intelligible, which means you can't understand them, there may be another underlying issue that could be treated with therapy. But it's generally, if it's a just speech problem, it's something that you can address more easily than language. Language is more deep and more understanding, more to do with the brain, where speech is more of a structural thing that may be impeding their speech.
All right, Yumna, let's take a quick break and we'll continue, inshallah, with tips on how to help your child with speech impediments. Please stay on the line.
The combined dam levels for the Port Elizabeth area is at a shocking 11%. 1 July is day zero for the Kucha Dam, resulting in dry taps for hundreds of families in the surrounding areas of Port Elizabeth. Help us strategize. Support our water drive in the Eastern Cape region of South Africa. Donate your lilla towards the erecting of JoJo tanks in impoverished areas and for the vehicles to deliver water in areas of need. Donate to the Al-Fida Foundation. Visit our website at www.alfida.co.za or contact us at 041 484 1288.
Looking to get your kick? Kiki's have now reopened on 235 Matthews Maiwa Road in Durban. Head on over for the Taste with Kick. We offer something scrumptious for everyone in the family. Wraps, chicken tikka, burgers, tender grills, mocktails, milkshakes, and so much more. Corporate and events catering available. Visit our social media pages for more info or call 031 209 0119. Kiki's, the Taste with Kick.
Famine, conflict, and severe economic decline make the humanitarian crisis in Yemen the worst in the world. More than 20 million Yemenis do not know where their next meal is coming from, and over 10 million are suffering extreme levels of hunger. With your support, the Al-Imdad Foundation delivers essential food aid to starving Yemeni communities. It's a question of survival. So let's do what's right. Donate online at alimdad.com. or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
These are the days of Eid. Make takbir wherever you are. These are the days of Eid, Allah.
Add a sprinkling of sparkles to your magical parties and special occasions with colorful party supplies and awesome helium balloons. Celebrate Eid al-Adha in style with our stunning range of decorations, disposable tableware, meat bags and tags, Ziploc and self-sealing bags, refuse bags, polystyrene and foil trays, pallet wrap, Econo wraps, buff and clear tape. Eid al-Adha essentials galore. Be sparkled by our wide range of baking ingredients, baking tools and bakeware. Stunning edible cake decor for Eid al-Adha. Sprinkles and Sparkles Party Shop. You want it all. Open Monday to Sunday. Visit us at 431 Inanda Road, Parlock, Durban, South Africa. Call 031 577 0604. Follow us on Instagram at Sprink and Spark and Facebook at Sprinkles and Sparkles.
Sustain, sacrifice, share. This Eid al-Adha, donate your Qurbani through Africa Muslims Agency. We ensure that your Udhiyah Qurbani not only feeds the poor, but creates sustainable incomes for local farmers, brings the practice of sacrifice to the villages, and shares the spirit of Eid. Sponsor in South Africa for 2,400 Rand. Africa, 1,500 Rand. Palestine, 6,150 Rand. Syria, 4,000 Rand. Donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za or call 011-834-8685. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media, and today we are talking about speech impediments and how to help your child with a speech impediment with the speech therapist Yumna Bam. Yumna, shukran for staying on the line. And when it comes to helping your child with a speech impediment, how do you go about doing it?
No, if you want to help your child, firstly, it's something you can maybe start addressing at home. So if you feel like maybe they are young, but they're not speaking as much as you'd expect them to, or as much as your other children, maybe start by modeling more speech for them, giving them more opportunities to speak. So if, for example, they're not speaking, instead of always just anticipating their needs and giving them what they want, hold back a little bit and give them an opportunity to ask or give them a choice, just so that you can start getting more out of them. Something else you can do is also slowing down your speech, trying to talk slowly. And if you feel like this is all not helping, you can always take them for an assessment to a speech therapist. It's never too early. Early intervention is always best. Before things get too late and too progressed, if you are concerned and you feel like there's something that's not so good with your child's speech or language, always get it checked out. If it's nothing, you can always leave it and carry on, but at least you know you've checked it. You don't want to leave it until they're 3 or 4 years old, starting to want to go to school, and then you only address it because then it's a bit late. Also, what you can do at home to try and help your child, if you feel like they're not speaking much, try to avoid TV and battery-operated toys. Too much of screen time in TV also just doesn't stimulate the brain enough. What we can try and do is rather engage them in activities, helping around the house, or even just talking to them, trying to focus their playing around interactive communication and not just one-sided, so that they can have an opportunity to speak.
All right. So, how does speech therapy help with speech impediments? And that's where you come in as a speech therapist.
Sorry, can you just repeat the question? It broke up a bit.
How does speech therapy help with the speech impediments?
So, generally, it depends on the type of impediment that is present. But generally, it does help. If you start early, it's more of repetition, and if it's specifically speech, it's more of just speaking and trying to correct the sound. But if it's more of a language problem, then we address it through activities, through playing, through using other means just to stimulate the language, just to get them speaking more. That is what we generally do in speech therapy. We use activities to try and target certain areas just to get more out of the child. It sometimes takes a while because they're shy, or it's difficult to get the child to actually engage with you if they're not familiar with you. That's why sometimes it's better to do home programs where you give the mom activities to do at home in their natural environment, where they can assist their children in picking up speech. For example, if your child's in the bath, which is a normal daily activity, you can try and label things, name things that are around them, or model words like open, close, soap, in, out, basic vocabulary that they will pick up on. And by doing the action and pairing it with the word, that is how they pick up what words mean. So how they will understand more words is by showing them and saying the word at the same time.
Are language and speech disorders hereditary?
They can be. Sometimes if there's a family history of language delays or brain problems, things like that, that can be a contributing factor. But generally, it's more child-specific because you often see there'll be maybe a family with 3 children, and one child speaks very early and the next one speaks very late. So it's also important not to always compare, because children do all develop at different rates. But things like stuttering and things like that could come from family history of disorders, yes.
We have a question here from our Facebook line. Pumelele Sakina Dulama would like to know if it's possible to correct a lisp.
Yes, definitely lisps can be corrected. It depends on the child's age, firstly, because sounds of the alphabet develop at different ages. So if your child is 2 and they're not saying the S sound correctly, that is still okay. But if they are getting to 5, 6, and then they're still not saying the S sound correctly, or the Z or the R, those are more difficult sounds that we expect to develop a bit later. Then if by then it's not developed, we will then do intervention. But we will not do, we won't do speech therapy for a sound that is too early to be expected in a child's speech to be correct. But you can correct it. The way to do therapy with lisp is just our general speech therapy, where we would target the sound in different positions of the word, different environments, just to get the child more familiar with saying the sound and saying it correctly in all those environments, because sometimes it becomes a habit also of saying the sound in a certain way, and it's just to break them out of that.
All right. So if this hasn't been corrected in their childhood, is it possible to correct it in adulthood?
Yes, definitely. It will take a bit more effort because it's still been ingrained and you are so used to it. But if an adult is committed and they want to do speech therapy, it's definitely possible, yes.
All right. Okay, that's great. Well, children can be brutal, especially when a child has a speech impediment or a disability. So how do you handle your child being teased for their speech impediment?
Yes, it's always difficult, and bullying is a big thing with speech and in schools, and we always want to make sure that our children are not experiencing this. It is difficult, but the way to address it is maybe to try and speak to the teacher, say that this is happening. Maybe they can be separated from the children who are teasing them or trying to make them feel bad about it, and also then to try and address the actual problem to give them more confidence going forward. So as they become more confident in their speech, then they won't feel like they are being teased anymore or anything.
Okay, Yumna, shukran so much for your time. For more information, where can people go?
So for more information, you can definitely contact a speech therapist, or if you can Google, but always be cautious with Google because there's so much online that it can mislead you. If you are willing, there are many speech institutions that you can go for. One of them is called, I can't remember the name now, but I can maybe send it to you to upload onto your page, and then people can follow it from there.
All right, we'll definitely appreciate it. Shukran so much for your time and have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
All right, you too.
Yomna Bam, speech therapist, taking us through how to help your child with a speech impediment. And good news is that speech impediments can be, not speech impediments, but rather speech impairments can be cured, as long as you are willing to go through the process, And when it comes to language, as Jumna mentioned, language is much more difficult to a language disorder. It's much more difficult to work through because language is in the brain. We always try to teach our children multiple languages as they are young, so that they can grow up into adults who are multilingual. And sometimes it can be challenging if your child has a language disorder. So you might not know whether they have a speech disorder or a language disorder, but there is help available, and Yumna will get that information for us, and we will share it with you should you require more information on where to go and who to contact regarding speech and language disorders or impairments or impediments like a cleft lip or cleft palate. Those are impairments, and Yumna is a speech therapist, and she is the right person to help you and your child with speech impairments, anything that you require, or language impairment. So if you have any further questions, comments, or queries or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section or send them to us via WhatsApp. The number is 061-766-0355. Please do stay with us. We will be right back.